Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to all you. And congratulations for being here. I want to share a statistic with you that I found amazing. Just 1 in 10 people in America will spend their own time and money to attend a learning seminar or an academy like this. Just 1 in 10. And that's not even the fascinating part. It's been proven that those 10%, the group that you all now belong to, are almost always the top producers in their industry. And it's simply because only the top people invest in themselves. So again, congratulations to you on being here. 10 years ago, I saw an ad in the newspaper, and a company was looking for someone to sell final expense life insurance. I had no idea what that was. But the ad said in big, bold letters that I could potentially earn $80,000. Looking back, I think the word potentially may have been itty-bitty, but the 80,000 was big. I remember that. So I thought, it's not that I wasn't making close to that. I mean, I was only lacking the left half of the first digit. So to me, that was close. But I said, hey, I'm gonna go for this job. So I took a copy of the ad and I walked into their office and I said, I'm your guy. To my surprise, all they asked me was, do you have a credit card on you that we can put on file and charge you for leads each week? And I kind of gulped and said, yes. And they said, you're right, you're our guy. That is all it took. So as you might imagine, from that stellar beginning, by the end of the year, the credit card had no more credit. I had no more job. So quite a few months go by, and after promising myself and assuring my wife that I would never, ever again seek out employment in final expense, I was introduced in 2006 to Jim Mull. Jim had been selling for 18 years already, was very successful, and had promised to share with me what he had learned. The first thing he taught me was, this job is not easy. You have to know that up front. This job is not easy. He said it's relatively simple, very rewarding, but it's not easy. I have a friend who used to sell cars, and he would brag all the time about what a great salesman he was. Oh, I sold 2 cars today. Sold 8 cars this week. Finally, after I'd been in final expense for several years, I got tired of hearing that, and I said, let's compare what we do. I said, you're sitting in your fancy little swivel chair, feet on the desk, reading a magazine. Some guy comes through the door to you and says, hey, I just noticed you got in a blue 5 Series BMW. I really want to drive that. You say, well, let me get the keys. We'll take her for a spin. 15 minutes later, you're back. The guy's tongue's hanging out. He's drooling. He wants to buy the car. And you think you've done something wonderful making a sale. I said, now let's compare that. We drive to them. And if it's a door knock, they don't even know we're coming. We show up on their porch with a copy of a lead that they may not remember, but we sell our way in, and then we sell them on buying an intangible item that they'll never physically benefit from, never benefit at all from it while they're alive. We sell them on the idea of giving us their social security number. We ask for their bank account information, and we get it. And then we tell them $50 a month will be disappearing from that account, so that when you're dead, a $10,000 check will appear in your son's mailbox. When you think about it, it's pretty amazing that we make sales. But we do more times than not. They say, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So I guess the moral of that story is, if you want it easy, sell cars. But if you're a sales professional and you're looking for something rewarding to do, you found a home. This is definitely it. So I learned that from Jim, and I also kind of learned the nuts and bolts of selling. For instance, he said, when you're on the phone, say, I'm calling in regards to a card that I had received from you, instead of I'm calling about a card you sent me. Doesn't sound like much, makes a huge difference. He taught me, when you're in the home, ask open-ended questions and close-ended questions and tie-downs. Cover objections before they arise. And most importantly, ask for the sale. So people don't ask. Salespeople don't ask. People in general don't ask. Why don't people ask? Because they don't want to hear no. But if you don't ask, you're already telling yourself no. So you have to ask for the sale. He also taught me ad-libbing is for amateurs. Professional salespeople know what they're going to say. They have a presentation in mind when they go in the house. They know the words they're going to use and how they're going to say it. And that reminds me of a story. A guy had been sentenced to a minimum security prison for attempting a withdrawal from a bank in which he had no account. We won't get into that, but he had been there 3 or 4 days, and they were all in, sort of like this, they were all in a big area eating supper one night. About halfway through the meal, one of the inmates stands up, bangs on the side of his cup, everybody gets real quiet and looks at him, and the guy says, 22. The whole room starts laughing. And this guy's thinking, what in the world's going on? Well, he didn't think anything more of it. Till the next week, same thing. Everybody's in there eating. About halfway through the meal, another guy stands up, another inmate, bangs on the side of his cup. Everybody gets quiet. And the guy says, 71. Same thing. The whole room starts laughing. And this guy couldn't take it anymore. He turned to the guy next to him and said, all right, I haven't been here that long, but I don't get this. The guy said, well, it's very simple. There's just one joke book in the prison library. And we've all read it so many times, we haven't memorized. So now, instead of taking the time to tell the joke, we just say the page number, we all know what joke we're talking about, and we laugh because they're funny. So the guy's thinking, all right, well, I really want to fit in here, so I'm gonna learn a joke, and I'm gonna tell it, and everybody will like me. So the next day, he goes and he checks out this joke book, and he memorizes it. I mean, he read it backwards and forwards and kept it for a week, till one night he decides, tonight's the night. I'm going to stand up and tell a joke while everybody's eating, and I'm going to be, brought into the group. Everybody's going to like me. He was real nervous about it, but about halfway through the meal, bangs on the side of his cup. Everybody gets real quiet and looks at him, and he says, 49. Nothing. Nothing. Not even a chuckle. He's thinking, well, I don't get it. Well, a few seconds go by, everybody starts eating and talking again and just forget all about him. He's devastated. He sits back down in his chair and he turns to the guy next to him again and said, I don't get it. I've read that book backwards and forwards for the last week. That's the funniest joke in there. Why didn't they laugh? And the guy said, well, it's not the joke, it's the way you told it. So, as I learned from Jim, and you'll learn from Alan and Jim tomorrow, there is a way to tell the joke, so to speak. There is a way to use words and do a presentation that allow people to relate to you and understand what you're trying to sell them. The way you say the words, the way that you speak, in fact, your ability to speak well, to influence others, and persuade them to take action will move you ahead further in this business than I think any other skill. There's such a fine line between here's a voided check and yeah, that sounds great, but I'm going to think about it. Just such a fine line. So learn your presentation. There's also something I've learned over the years, kind of the difference between successful people and successful agents and less successful people and successful agents. It seems like successful agents and successful people in general always see the opportunity. Somebody told you, well, hey, there's an academy in June. You probably should go. And here you are. There were a lot of other agents who knew about this academy, but they saw the obstacles. Well, it's way down there in Mississippi, and it's in June. That's kids are out of school, and it's bad time of year, and it's probably going to be hot down there. And I know all that stuff anyway. I'm not going to go. Big difference between seeing opportunity, seeing obstacles. Successful agents say, I just pulled 40 A leads. It's going to be a great week. Less successful agents. Yeah, I just got 40 A leads, but 2 of them didn't even have phone numbers. That's the difference between success and not as successful. And finally, on that note, unsuccessful or less successful people always see cost. Cost is always a problem. More successful people see value. The people that aren't here said, they want me to pay to come sit in some classroom? Yeah, I don't know. That's not for me. But not you. You're saying, what I learned in those couple days in Mississippi could be worth tens of thousands of dollars to me over the next 6 months. I'm going to go. And here you are. Big difference, and that's why you'll succeed. Pardon me a second. But you have to keep in mind The most popular piece of home exercise equipment in the country is a treadmill, but there's only one way it benefits you. You got to use it. Same thing here. The most important part of this week won't even happen here. It's what you do with the information that you learn when you get back home and get out in the field. You have to put it to use. If you're not going to take notes and learn the next couple days, you might as well have been home. So take notes and learn and use it when you get out in the field. Decades ago, General MacArthur called it an appetite for adventure over love of ease. And obviously you have that. You're not part of the group of people who say, just pay me on the time I put in and I'm just going to go home. You say, I don't worry about that. I don't worry about how many hours I have to put in, how many miles I have to drive, how much gas I use. Just pay me on results. Pay me on the policies I sell. That's how I choose to do things. And I think that's a wonderful thing, and I'm glad that's going to work out for you, just simply because you're here. I have another quick story I want to leave you with. A couple old boys, Dan and Charlie, were out hunting. They were amateurs, but they were out hunting, they were trying, and sure enough, they bag a deer. So they're dragging this deer back to their truck, and they're dragging it by the tail, and they keep slipping and falling and losing their grip, losing their balance. And an old farmer comes by, and he watches this nonsense for a while, and he said, what are you boys doing? They're like, well, we got this deer, we're dragging it back to the truck. And the farmer says, you don't drag a deer by the tail. God has provided you with handles called antlers. You drag the deer by the antlers. Well, they never thought of that. What a great idea. So they grab it by the antlers and they start pulling. And after 5 or 6 minutes, they're making rapid progress. And Dan says, Charlie, that farmer was right. It pulls a lot easier this way. And Charlie said, well, it does, but now we keep getting further from the truck. You know, and the sad thing is a lot of people just try to pull the easy way through life, but they're getting further from the truck. They're getting further from their dreams and their goals. We have an opportunity here that is quite unique. I mean, special, really, when you think about it. We are selling a product that is in demand. People need this and want this. Everybody's going to die. They need final expense life insurance. We're selling it to a group of people, a client base, that continues to grow. More people turn 60 and 65 and 70 every day now compared to any time in history. So we're selling a product in demand to a client base that continues to grow. We're using great carriers like American Amicable. We're doing it with a partner like One Life. What more can you ask for? Now, don't get me wrong, there will be days that you may want to throw your pitch book off a bridge. There probably will be. But you won't do that because we've already established you're in the top 10%. Don't give that up. When you're on the phone setting appointments for the week, and you're just frustrated, you've set some, and you're just, I want to go watch TV. Just force yourself to make one more appointment. Might be on your next call. Might be 10 calls from now, whatever. Just say, I'm going to make one more. I'm going to set one more good appointment, and then I'll go do something more fun, which would be anything. When you're in the field, Jim would disagree, but not me. When you're in the field selling, and there's still some daylight left at the end of the day, maybe your last appointment was a no-show, or you just got stood up, and there's an hour or two of daylight left. This is a great time of year to sell. Just tell yourself, I'm going to go knock on 2 more doors before I go home. Whatever happens, if I sell them, if they're not home, whatever, I'm going to go knock on 2 more doors. At the end of the year, that 1 extra appointment you set and those 2 extra doors you knock on is going to make a huge difference in your income. So just force yourself to do that. And at the end of every week, kind of look back and evaluate whether it was a great week or a good week, maybe a little less than a good week, especially if it was a little less than a good week. Look back and say, how hard did I really work? Could I have done a little bit more? And ask yourself at the end of every week, what kind of company would this company be if everybody in it was just like me? And your honest answer will tell you all you need to know. Thank you for your time, and I wish for all of you tremendous success. Thanks.